Welcome, welcome. Happy Friday. For those of us who are here in the DMV region, it really looks like that this weekend is going to be the potential end of this quarantine, whatever that means. So, hopefully we'll be able to be getting outside safely and responsibly and socially distancing one another. So, for everyone who has been here with us for the past months as we've done these virtual programs, it's really, really wonderful to see you again. And for everyone who's online with us for the very first time for this talk, thank you and welcome. My name is Nicole Dowd. I'm Halcyon's Director of Arts Programs, and welcome to our final virtual studio visit for the month of May. I'm really excited to close it out this afternoon with one of Halcyon Cohort 3 Artist Fellows be sharing her work and inspirations with us. Personally, been looking forward to having Janae give a talk for a while. Janae, along with her fellow artists in this cohort, will be wrapping up their Halcyon residency this summer and have been so incredibly resilient and nimble during this crazy, unprecedented time, probably the most unprecedented time we've ever experienced as a Halcyon community. So stay tuned for some virtual opportunities to engage with them this summer before the residency concludes and we have to say goodbye. So I hope that we'll also get to see you in person at the Arts Lab just as soon as it's safe to gather again. So thanks everyone again for joining us. I'm going to go over a couple of housekeeping things, even though we all live in Zoom land right now, so we pretty much know how these things work already. Along the bottom of your screen, you'll see that there's some features, how to turn your video on and off, and you'll probably notice that your microphones are actually muted when you enter. We also recommend that for today's presentation, you switch your Zoom view to speaker view or presentation view so that when Janae shares her work, you'll be able to see it on your entire screen. There is going to be a Q&A at the end of today's session, but if you think of questions for Janae during this presentation, you can post the question in the chat function, which is also along the bottom of your screen, and we will save it for later on during the Q&A portion. So with all that out of the way, thank you again for joining us. I'm going to really let Janae share a lot of her story and her inspirations, and I am really, really happy that you're here with us today. But for just a bit of background, Janae is a photographer, a digital visual artist, and DJ with really just an incredibly multidisciplinary practice. Janae is the creative co-director and lead organizer of the DC-based Black Femme Brunch, which is a community which cultivates radical, irreverent, and unapologetic celebration of Black, trans, and queer femmes of all or no genders. She's worked across the country, including in New Orleans and here in DC, and is a current Halcyon Arts Lab Fellow. So now, without further ado, over to you, Janae.
Woo, y'all, I'm gonna be crying a lot. And that's just the nature of myself, but also just the moment that we are in. So, wow. Thank you all. I wish there was a way to D&D the chat, because that is really just gonna send me to a very crying place. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Wow, I'm really just gonna be my mother's child. Also, my mother's in the chat right now with her camera turned off. So you all don't confuse who is the real Janae. It's me, the one whose name is Janae. So first I'll actually share my screen because that's what we're here to witness, aside from my beautiful face. Wow, there are 37 people in here. That's wild. Okay, so thank you all so much for coming out, spending your lunch hour with me. My name is Janae. I also use the moniker Jet Weems and Fat Black Clit, and I'll talk more about that later. And I would first, what you'll learn about me, let me reorient the screen so I can see all the things that I need to be able to see. What you will definitely be learning about me today is that I'm a very churchy person. I grew up in the Black Baptist Church, and the church has informed everything about who I am, how I move through the world. So after I show you all these organizations and individuals that you are welcome to give any coin that you may have to, and I'll show these again at the end, I'm gonna offer an invocation. Here it is. here's the invocation, rest. And this invocation is one that was offered to me last night through an Instagram Live by Trisha Hersey, if you all are familiar with her. She is the NAP bishop who runs a space, a collective called the NAP Ministry. And you can find that on the NAP Ministry on any social media platform. And it's more critical, it's always critical that we rest. It's not something that has to be scheduled. It's not something that you need to ask permission for. So I would like to extend to you all the opportunity to rest. So, you know, if you are doing the business casual mullet thing, you know, business up top, party at the bottom, you know, why are you even wearing clothes at home? Loosen up your, you know, your top button. If you are in any way uncomfortable, mitigate that. If you want to lay down, lay down. If you want to rest, close your eyes. This will be recorded. You can get this another time. I encourage you all to rest. And in that, I would also like to encourage everyone to hydrate, because I need to hydrate. So the first thing that I'd like to do is do some honoring. And the first honoring that I'd like to do, I'd like to start with acknowledging the grieving and mourning that we are all going through, that many of us have gained so many new ancestors in the last 2 months. And we also have so many ancestors that have brought us through so many pandemics in our lifetimes, so many apocalypses, so many earth-shattering ends. And I really just want to honor that the ancestors that we have gained, both new and old, their wisdoms live within us and will continue to carry us through all of the pandemics that we will see in our lifetime. So I'd just like to take a moment to do whatever you'd like to do. I'm going to let out a loud wail once I mute myself. So I give you permission, if you need it, to do whatever you need for the next 30 seconds to honor your grieving, your mourning, the ancestors that we have gained, both new and old. Thank you all for honoring that moment with me. Now I'd like to take a moment. Oh, the timer is, I did not reset the timer. Oh, time is already doing a thing. Great. So I'd now like to honor the abundant life and the things that are sustaining us in this moment. So if you all could, and I'm not going to be able to look at this moment because, wow, I have way too many things on my screen already. But if you all could in the chat, just type a few of the things that are sustaining your life. The things, the people, the communities, the aspirations, the dreams, the visions that are sustaining you in this moment. And not just this moment, because I really don't want to emphasize this moment as something that's exceptional in the world and the timeline of America. It's really just a continuation of what America has always been, will always be, forever and ever, amen. Amen. So if you have that list, and I'll give you maybe about 30 more seconds to populate that list. Wow, I really wish I knew how to do more right now, but I would like to invite you all, since we had an invocation, we're going to have an invocational hymn now. So this is a song that I grew up with in the Black Baptist Church singing. I assume this is a hymn. Maybe it's not a hymn. Maybe it's just a song that we sang. And I encourage you to put whatever things, people, aspirations are sustaining you in that blank. And we're gonna sing a little bit. And great thing, everyone's on mute, so you know, no one has to be a perfect vocalist. Y'all are gonna hear me, so I don't know what that's gonna hit for, but you know, c'est la vie. Life is gonna happen. Let's find a key. All right, so typically the words that are used are joy, peace, and love. So I'm gonna use maybe one of those words, and then the other times that we sing it, I'm gonna swap it out for some other words that are representative of things that are sustaining me. So here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. I said the world didn't give it, and the world can take it away. So put in another word. Here's mine. These orgasms that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, the orgasms I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, the pleasure that I have, the world didn't give it to me. I said the world didn't give it, and the world can take it away. All right, we're gonna do one last round. This future that I have, the world didn't give it to me. And I'm gonna mix it up, put a lot more words. This faith that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this freedom I have, the world didn't give it to me. I said the world didn't give it, and the world can take it away. I keep my tambourine on me at all times. If you've seen a DJ set, you know that. This goes everywhere with me. Thank you all for being a part of that invocational hymn. I really appreciate it. So here we go. Now about me, though I've been talking about me. So I was raised between Little Union Baptist Church, my auntie's house, my grandma's land, and my backyard. And it's between those 4 locations that everything about how I understand myself to be a queer person, a creator, an artist, a community member, a loved one, and a Black person in this world was born and cultivated. This picture, and I saw a few of my cousins in here. I love y'all so much. Thank you all for joining. This is a picture of all of my family members. I am in denim down, okay, because we are what country? I just grew up watching Black women fully in their power everywhere I was, capable of any and all things, and often necessarily. So that is what informs so much of who I am in the world and the work that I do. And it's important to me that I lead with this moniker when I'm talking about my work, Fat Black Clit. And I use it oftentimes as an opportunity to flag for folks that the work of mine that folks are about to experience is going to be inappropriate. It's going to be messy. It's going to be inconvenient. It's going to be playful and queer, which sometimes and oftentimes is queer meant in like the gay way, of course, duh. But also, and always, is queer meaning spoiling some arbitrarily normalized notion of being, which is the core of who I am. So much of how I was raised queered normalized notions of how folks should be raised. It's really easiest to understand this moniker by taking each word and seeing the power of juxtaposing them. So I'm going to be showing you all a few different illustrations that I made last spring when I first started to think of this moniker, Fat Black Clit. And I used this, this sort of illustrative series as an exercise of drawing fat, Black, erotic bodies that didn't have to be in conversation with grief, burden, despair, and didn't have to pander to white notions of desire. So this idea that to be fat and desirable, I can't have a fupa. I can't have saggy titties. Okay, they have to be snatched. You know, I have to have a waist trainer on. I can't have body hair. So thinking about what does it look like to illustrate erotic Black bodies that are also playful, that centers a desire and a beauty standard, and invests in a beauty standard that centers me. So first we have fatness, and fatness is expected to reject itself. It's expected to accept that it is inherently synonymous with morbidity or death. You know, we have this term morbidly obese, which literally means you are fat and you will die. And this is especially true if on a fat femme body, and even more so, especially true if the fat femme body is Black. Fatness is supposed to appeal to and aspire towards beauty standards of whiteness and thinness and high femininity, to justify its right to exist. So again, I'm supposed to show up in lipstick, which, look, y'all, I have my favorite lipstick in my front pocket. I was just saying, you know, if it was gonna happen, if it was gonna pop, not today, but it's here. Blackness. So Blackness is expected to accept its existence as an inherent threat and burden. And it's expected to shirk everywhere it goes, especially in a fat femme body. And then, of course, clit. Praises be. Clit, or click if you are a certain kind of country, okay? But that is for another conversation, which of course is the only organ on any body solely for the function of pleasure. So this idea of pleasure, when juxtaposed with fatness and Blackness, offers us this scandalizing idea. So we have a Blackness that is fat, not only existing, but taking deep pleasure in doing so. Joyful, fulfilled, not apologizing, not holding its breath, not treading lightly, and not asking permission. And for me, sometimes this is an aspiration and other times a reality. So that is why I use the moniker Fat Black Clit. And this notion of divesting from the arbitrary beauty standards of whiteness that don't include me, don't center me, don't seek to see me not exist, and turning it inwards really comes from so much of the work that I do with my bestest friend, Joss, who many of you all know, on a project called Black Femme Brunch. So,
hey, Janae, can I ask you one thing? I think that we're having a lag with your slides because we still only see the first one.
Oh no! Okay, what are you all seeing now? Are you seeing eyeballs?
I see eyeballs. Okay.
Perfect. So here's some more illustrations. Okay. Great.
It looks like it's working now. Sorry, lady. Okay.
Wow. No, I appreciate you. Thank you. So with Black Femme Brunch, Joss and I have been curating the space. Joss is the founder, and she very graciously allowed me to join on in the first year. And we have been curating Black Femme Brunch for 5 years. And in these 5 years, it has been this practice of us doing so much excavation of our notions of desire to this point where we are now in this space where we are very intentionally centering fat, Black, queer, and trans femmes in the work that we do around pleasure in kink and BDSM and general community gathering. Which is a radical notion centering fat Black femme desire of itself, when so many queer spaces adhere to so many cis heteronormative norms of like, to be a couple, you must have a masculine and a feminine. What happens when we just say, fuck all that, we're gonna have two femmes? So that has been something that work is not only informed by my Black Baptist theology and social practice, but also informed by kink and BDSM as a Black fat femme. So out of this self-desire work emerged my movement practice. And for me, this movement practice, all of the work that I do is really about understanding why and how and where and in what capacity and to what extent I am possible or can be possible. And making that process visible for other Black folks who desire to do that work or are currently doing the work. And in an ideal world, one byproduct of that work is permission, of course, generally, but more specifically, permission to shed, and if not like shed, just shine light on this notion that I literally just got language for 2 days ago. So I'm really grateful for that. But it's something that I've experienced for quite some time, this idea of pluralistic ignorance. A situation in which a majority of group members privately reject a norm, but go along with it because they assume incorrectly that most others accept it. This is also described as no one believes, but everyone thinks that everyone believes. And for me, that shows up in so many ways. And this is, you know, how we gaslight ourselves and each other out of the honesty and authenticity that we deserve and that we require to live our most whole and pleasurable lives. So it's really the reason that I'm in this active practice of folding in these public personal truth tellings in my work. So I started this movement practice last spring, and so much of it is steeped in two truths, that so much of my relationship to movement in my body was created in my formative years of my adulthood, where so much of the movement was in service of weight loss under the guise of health. And so much of the touch of my body was touch that was in deep critique of my body and how it existed in the world, and, you know, attempt to hide and tuck away and, you know, shove fat in Spanx, all of these instances of shrinking my body. So I found in my movement practice this space where I could honor the touch and movement my body needed and desired and really listen deeply to that. And sometimes that looked like flailing my body across the dance studio, and other times it looked like crawling on the floor, and sometimes it looked like, you know, doing these microscopic, almost undetectable, you know, touching different parts of my arm for 20 minutes. And my movement practice became a space to explore that for me. I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. All right, so I am going to share with you a time lapse from my movement practice. My movement practice typically is 45 minutes to an hour and a half. So time lapse is the best way to capture that. Where's the video, Janae? Here we go. And I'm gonna run this back. And the audio that you hear is from something that I'll be talking about in a bit. I began this series of hymns that I was singing. And a lot of the singing happened at late in the midnight hour for all my churchy folks. So my voice quality is reflective of that, but also this practice of singing these hymns was an opportunity, again, to open up to play and to open up to this opportunity of moving through different registers of voice for me. So we're in good quality, and here we go. Abrupt end. I apologize. Fading out was not a thing that I was doing at the beginning of my residency, unfortunately. Let's, oh, Janae, okay, here we go. Boom, period. All right, so, so in this movement practice, I really wanted to share with other folks, namely other fat Black queer femmes like myself, this space. Oftentimes fat Black femmes are relegated to this role of simultaneously being hierarchically without power and also somehow responsible for everyone else's experience and impression of the world and themselves, ourselves. So I was interested in offering a space in which we could lay down that exhausting performance and pick up play and pick up losing control, which is an experience that I've had in my movement practice. So out of that desire, this space called Black Intimacy Practice was born, and I'm gonna share, all right, we're at 30, great. I'm gonna share a few reflections that I had that emerged out of my movement practice. I will read this for you, so don't worry about all of the words that are on the screen. But as you may ascertain, it's a little awkward, it's very awkward rather, to facilitate a play space generally. But specifically, when I think of the deeply limited time Black women and femmes have for ourselves, sometimes I felt really guilty about asking folks to waste time with me. You know, but actually I had a moment where I was reframing and thinking about this time as stealing it back from whiteness and stealing our time back from the need to produce that's inherent in whiteness, which, spoiler alert, didn't make it any less awkward or weird, but it allowed me to release my own shame around feeling like I was wasting folks' time. So feel what you're feeling. Feel what is telling you needs to be felt. The Black church teaches us that no one is too grown, too professional, too big, or too young to be slain in the spirit, to experience something as involuntary and enrapturing as the Holy Ghost. It is in this place that we should allow ourselves permission and time to feel what we are feeling. Black can crack. How do we allow ourselves to break? What are the conditions under which our spirits may be vulnerable to release and relinquish control? To crack, to relieve our muscles of the need to be in action, a primary actor, ever on stage, performing resilience. How do we release our muscles and allow our limbs to be wherever they fall? How do we allow whiteness to die because we are dead to it, or we have decided to be dead to it? Another reflection, again, thinking about asking folks to play and take this time. Take your time. Take time alone, take time, rob it from whiteness and capitalism, creep, crawl, meander, be unremarkably boring, mundane. Being unextraordinary and unexceptional and unentertaining is also our birthright. So for me, I think a lot of the time I was trying to force my movement practice into this performance space, and it never fit that because that's not what it was. It was this meditative and intuitive play practice away from production, away from performance. And for a long time, I would watch Treese, Hersey, and the Nap Ministry, and I knew that there was connection between rest and play, but it wasn't until recently that it finally clicked, the connection between rest and play, and pleasure also. Specifically in the life of Black folks, rest, pleasure, and play are anti-capitalist practices that do not immediately or directly produce something that is consumable, which is really troubling when the only measurement this world has for Black lives is their external usefulness and production. So rest is asking, what is capable for my life if I'm not using it to produce? And this residency has offered so many opportunities for me to experience rest as such a radical thing that I was just like, oh, this is why all of these ideas that I had could not come into being, because I had no time to rest. I'm constantly trying to figure out how I exist and continue to exist in capitalism. And play is asking, what is capable for my life if I am allowed to do creative ideation without the need to be lucrative, or without the need to have my ideation tied to an outcome or production of any kind. And my work really necessitates Black ease and comfort, which is oftentimes why the spaces that I hold, the classes that I hold and I facilitate are for Black folks only. So when I think about Black Femme Brunch, when I think of Black Friday, which was a monthly dinner that I was hosting here at Halcyon Arts Lab for artists, Black artists in DC, Black intimacy practice, all of these are Black only spaces, because it's so important to have the space where we can let down, again, this performance of a certain self, and not having to include any explanatory commas about what is happening in the space, or justifying or tending to, this well-meaning gaze and its inquiries. So I'm gonna keep going. So creating is a tarrying service. Again, just this need to rest and be in play and not produce. Creating is a tarrying service, a waiting, a giving, a praying, a listening, a pressing, and allowing. All right, so this is a little bit longer, but at the beginning of the residency, I was experiencing a lot of self-doubt, looking at my cohort mates who are amazing, brilliant artists, and seeing that the way that I thought about my work was just like completely alien to how a lot of folks are thinking about their work and how a lot of folks are talking about their work, and the ways that I almost did the ways in the which, shout out to all my academic folks out there, the ways in which folks were interested in seeing their work live in the world. And actually, this is a moment where I want to pause and thank Aisha White, who is our residency manager, and just brilliant. This is my first residency, and I just want to name the importance of having Black art administrators, specifically Black women administrators, if we're being, specific. All of my life, I've been encountering, well-meaning people who don't have the courage or the imaginative capacity, honestly, to support and help build the ideas and vision that I have to create in the world. And every time I would come to Aisha to use her words, these big, hairy, audacious ideas and goals, and she'd be like, yeah, not wince a bit, and, ask and connect me with strategy and, timeline and all these things. So I really and deeply appreciate Aisha and the role that she's played in my time in this residency. Okay, back to the work. But during the beginning of the residency, I was really in a deep self-doubt. And I decided to sort of return to this metaphoric home and first love of singing, making noise. Fun fact, my first solo in the church choir at Little Union Baptist Church was 3 years old. Wow, always making noises. So I started this series of hymns. And again, it was in this vein of this intuitive practice. Like I would wake up at 2 a.m. and, Spirit would be like, hey girl, it's time to go sing in this dance studio with all the residents. Yeah, it's time, girl. So I would go and I would take these hymns, and many of them at first were about water. And I think that maybe some of that had to do with this sweeping love that I had for New Orleans, which I had moved to right before the residency was announced, and then I moved right back. So I'm born and raised Virginia. So I thought I was getting away from the DMV, and Halcyon was like, "Nah, girl, let's bring it back in. You still have work here." So in these songs, I'm taking these hymns and spirituals that I grew up with, and some that I learned in like Black choral settings. And again, doing this play with them, both in voice and playing with registers, going from operatic, which you all heard in that Wade in the Water, to gospel, to bluesy, and allowing my voice to crack and allowing myself to break and, concede to whatever feelings were happening in the song. And also very literally playing with piano, an instrument that I know absolutely nothing about. But, just allowing spirit to guide all of these things. So really taking these hymns, playing with them, asking questions of them, zooming in on, phrases, lines, melodies that felt particularly resonant, and completely warping melodies sometimes. So here on this slide, we have a feature, the great Alex, sitting and observing. Alex, I love you. You're so wonderful. And I am going to play this. I'm going to turn this down for myself. Please play. All right, we are going to try it from a different direction.
This joy that I have, the world can't take it now. This joy that I have, oh, the world can't take it away, 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 you You can't take it.
So again, might sound familiar. It's the song that we started with the invocation. So again, using these hymns. Oh, stop that.
My girls don't trip. My girls keep winning. My girls don't lose. My girls.
Welcome. Okay, so that's the end of using iTunes. Shout out to LaKaylee. Yeah, wow, we're at the end. So the last two things that I wanted to share with you all is some photography work. These photographs are from a series called Assumption of Community. And so much of my work comes from a love of very ordinary Black folks. I come from very ordinary Black folks. Brilliant, beautiful, creative, hilarious folks, and ordinary. And it brings me so much joy to be able to archive and capture the beauty and simplicity of comfortable Black folks. Oh no, the internet is unstable. Girl, come back, please. Okay, so I'm gonna sort of zoom through this. I know I've been saying that, but time isn't real. Anyway, but clearly it is also. So this is my friend, Miss Hazel. She just celebrated her 98th birthday. All of these photographs were taken in New Orleans this summer and in January. She's 98 years old, brilliant. She's reading Becoming by Michelle Obama, large right now, and just stories for days. And getting to know the folks, again, I had planned on moving to New Orleans, had to come back. Getting to know folks and seeing this practice and action of you came to live here, so that means that you came to live with me and be in community with me, which is in direct opposition to what is actually happening in so many Black neighborhoods with gentrification of this idea of you came to live here so that I can no longer live here. And this just assumption of community that was inherent when I moved to New Orleans was something that I'd never experienced before. And it looked so different in so many directions. Anyway, this was my first solo show that I did, and it was this past summer. And I did it in a corner store. And it was in that time that I realized the exact way that I wanted my work to be experienced, because my work is explicitly about Black folks, having the opportunity to exhibit this work in a way that is accessible directly to my first audience. And I even invited, so I made a few friends, a few white friends and white passing friends, and I invited a few of them to come and see the show while it was up in the corner store. And it was the strangest experience. So I'm gonna go back to this photograph of Mr. Shorty. This is Mr. Shorty. And one of my friends, a white woman, you know, she was the only person, after I took her through this, I was like, after I showed her the photographs, I was like, oh, this is not how I desire my work to exist in the world. She stopped at this photograph and she was like, I need to know this man's story. And I'm just like, oh, girl, what in the nonprofit trauma narrative is happening here? And that just completely turned me off. and more so than that, clarified how I want my work to exist in the world. So this is Brittany, this is Braylon, this is my neighbor's youngest child. And those are some photographs there. And I've also started on this series of creatures called All Us. And I've really been consumed with this idea of this infinite possibility that we have when we're just little beings, you know, incubating in someone's body. And the moment we come out of that body, our infinite possibility is cut down to two options, male, female. And from that point on, we go through life having so many parts of our life cut off so many parts of our infinite possibility cut off. So this illustrative series, which I'm at 150 of these characters, is really just about imagining the wild possibilities of Blackness, but in cartoon form. I got 10 minutes and I make use of them. Okay, and here's some works in progress, new works, doing some clay works. If my mom is still here, I showed her this and she was like, this girl got a degree and she's making titties in a bowl. You're right, Mom. That's what's happening. So titties and fat bellies in a bowl. And that's what I'm working on once I figure out how to work a kiln. So if you know how to work a kiln, holla at your boy. And I'm doing some painting work. This is a smaller piece that I was working on, and I'm working on a 6x4 that will hopefully be ready for the show that we have in July as a cohort. Again, here are the organizations and individuals that if you have some extra coin, you should throw some money at. Feel free to screen capture that. And this is me. And I have not used my favorite word, which is nigga, this whole presentation, but there it is. You're welcome. So you can find me, Janae Williams, Weems at Fat Black Clit. My literal email is indeed nigga@fatblackclit.com. You're welcome. And my website, which is literally just a cover page and has been for the past 2 years. So if you do web design and want to bless me with that gift, help me out. This is how you can reach me. So, wow, we have 9 minutes for questions. Let's do it, y'all. Woo!
Jeanette,
Oh my God.
You slide for the orgs and stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks
So
so much. Yeah. Janae, I was just gonna let you keep going. Honestly, I was like, let's just not cut this off. Like, just...
Right. I mean, most of these people know me, so y'all can literally ask your questions of me, like anytime. Text me, send me a voice message. So yeah, I'm down to answer. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Here,
I'm gonna unshare this screen. If you all, I'm gonna give a 5-second countdown. If you want to take a screen capture, 3, 2, 1. All right. Okay, exit.
And
Great.
we'll share this around also. So yeah, if there's like anything you want to put in follow up, we're also got the video recording. So
Back to meeting. There we go. How do I get back?
Let's see.
Okay. I don't know how to come back to this.
I got it.
Stop
I got
sharing.
it. I got you.
There
There
we
you go. Woo.
Wow,
All right.
115 comments. Wow. This is wild. I love y'all so much. Oh, I also meant to tell y'all to turn your beautiful cameras on so I could see you all, but you did it without even, being prompted. Wow. Alex, thanks for that text. Appreciate you. No, this was just celebratory things. Great.
Yeah, I didn't see any questions, but maybe we could just give people like 30 seconds if they have a question. I know, there's lots of friends and family in the audience. I think there's, some people who are just getting introduced to your work for the first time, but we want to take like a 30-second intermission. I'm going to kick it to
my mama.
Colleague Sam. Hi.
Literally the same face. Hi. This is my mama. And the daycare babies. Okay, I don't know how to cancel spotlight. Hey, I love you. Oh, you're still the main person.
That was a new thing. Wait, what is happening here?
I don't know, who knows?
Yeah, I was going to take like a couple seconds and kick it over to my colleague Sam,
Yes.
and then we'll hit right back over to, so think of questions, more comments. I feel like we need to like print out this whole transcript because it's so amazing. And I think that you missed some of it because you were all presenting and all that. So I'm going to send it to you.
I missed every single comment, every single one, y'all. I was way too nervous to look at the chat.
We'll send it over. But yeah, here, I'll kick it to you for a second, Sam.
Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Janae. I just wanted to really quickly say a little bit more about Halcyon and what we do. Halcyon is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. For those of you who don't already know, our mission is to empower the work of creatives, artists, social entrepreneurs. We run 2 fellowships. One of them is the Halcyon Arts Lab, as you all know, and we are so honored to have Janae as a fellow. I know we have a ton of other fellows on the call today too, so hi guys. I just wanted to say that at this time, we're doing our best to ensure that we can support our artists as much as we can during this time of rapid change, and we hope that we can continue supporting their artistry, and that their artistry and their art and practice can help provide others with opportunities to escape and reflect and heal and rest. Thank you, Janae. So we're so proud of them all and how well they're doing within the constraints of this environment. And we are very grateful to you all for being here today. I know we have tons of artists on this call, so thank you all for sharing your time with us and for all that you do. The last thing that I will say is just an additional organization to support is Halcyon. We do the best that we absolutely can at this time, and a small amount goes a long way at this time, as you all know. So in addition to the list that Janae graciously put in front of us all and that I screenshotted and will send out, please continue to support the world that you want to see and that you believe in. So thank you all so much for your time, and I'll pass it back to you and we can go to the Q&A session. Everyone at Halcyon is very grateful for you all. So thank you for your attention, and back to you, Nicole and Janae.
Thanks, Sam. Janae, we have there's an offer for some kiln help. So sweet. So a funny story, like, we have a kiln at the Arts Lab, but none of us know how to use it. So it's sort of useless at this point. But that would be really great. Thanks, Margaret. I think there was a question a little bit from Brittany about whether or not your art's for sale and where we can find it.
So I told y'all my website has been a cover page for the past 2 years, right? It is my deep desire to have a store, a digital store where I'm selling my work. And I'm trying to make that happen by the time we have our show in July. So if anybody, again, making the ask of co-working, if anybody wants to co-work on websites with me, let's do it. Because I really need to get a website up now that I actually have work to put on it. Well, I've always had work. Shout out to Amber also for for differentiating this idea of an emerging artist and an independent artist, because so many artists, such as like myself, are only emerging to the institutions that we, come in contact to. We've been doing this work for a very long time. So this shift of language, shout out to Amber. Been here, period. Oh, it's nap time. Also, my mother said that rest is biblical. Amen. Okay, so yeah, by July, hold me to that, y'all. Hold me to that. By July, my work will be available for sale. And yes.
Awesome. It's recording, so it's in the universe now.
Oh no.
Okay. We have a question from Reginald G. Do you feel like your art exists in the world closer to how you want it to now?
You know what? I've been thinking and talking with my friends a lot about how this moment where everything has gone digital has allowed me to let down so much stress of trying to pander to institutions and trying to, get the funding that I need to get the funding I need from institutions to be able to make this work accessible and in the ways that I want it to be in the world. And now, and also, so it's like that financial hurdle is there and is gone in lots of ways because everything is digital. And also it's allowing me to go back to my thought process of how do I actually want this to exist in the world, as opposed to what compromise do I want to make about how my work exists in the world. So I had a whole breakdown the other day about just oh, right, Corona is allowing my work to be accessible again. And because, God bless it, love Halcyon, Georgetown is not accessible. It's just not, specifically to Black folks. There's no metro stop that gets here. So as someone who is trying to do work, titty bowls, Sylvia loves my titty bowls. As someone who does work that is explicitly for Black folks, and to be living on this island that is Georgetown, which it's so wonderful to have this accessibility open back up in some ways. And it's also very interesting to watch how institutions are still trying to privatize and make anyway, privatize things in a hyper accessible platform. Like the internet is literally so accessible, and institutions are still like, but how can we keep it from the Blacks? So that's interesting to watch. How are you navigating decentering the hustle or gaining funding to still create? I think this is a selfish question of getting people's expectations out of my own way to access more of my creativity. You know what? Last year at the end of 2018, I did this visionary coaching with a friend, Jamari White, brilliant visionary coach. And so much of his work is tied into Black spirituality, Black spiritual practice. And the way that my faith practice grew, and it grew because of so much of the work was about visioning, of course, like being clear about my vision, which Amber, you're my favorite visionary person with such a clear vision. But also embedding in this vision, the fact that everything to this point has co-conspired with me to ensure my survival. And the more that I leaned on that reality, the more that I conceded to that reality, and this is like a bit woo-woo, because I feel like, but anyway, just like honoring that like what I need will come, and this need to be hustling all the time and being a victim at the mercy of capitalism doesn't necessarily have to be real. Like, will I be Bezos? Never, never desire to. But all of my needs will always be met. And that's really, really important. Even in this moment, like I'm very frantic about, also, if you have job leads, send it to your boy, all right? I could be frantic about a job. And also, there's money coming, you know, in little pockets and waves, and like people seeing things that I'm doing and being like, can we pay you to do that? Absolutely. You can always pay me to do something that I'm already doing. So yeah, I think just in this residency, realizing how important rest and not chasing capitalism, trying to chase this carrot of capitalism, has really allowed me to realize the fruitfulness that becomes of me being in my being and observing the need for rest and the creative outputs, though it's not my goal, the creative outputs that come from that. Wow, Amber, we'll talk another time. That's not a good answer to that question, but I love you. I love you so much, sis. Raisin Bran will never be the same. I don't know what that's about, but I'm excited about it.
I think it's about your bowls, yes.
Yeah, so that's that. Any other questions? Thank you all so much. This has been amazing. I cried a little bit, but it was not while I was talking, so I'll probably cry after this. So
it was really amazing. And, you know, thank you, Janae, for doing this. And, you know, I don't like to talk a lot about regret because like we can't always look back on the past and situations, you know, but I do have a really big regret that we're not going to be able to experience something in person together this summer, you know, seeing some of your vision come to life. But I just hope that we'll be able to see it sometime in the future in whatever a post-COVID world looks like. I know we're not hugging for a while, but that's okay. We'll save it.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing and being really vulnerable and sharing some of this work that I've been really, really amazed to see, you know, take life in the Arts Lab. And thank you to everybody for joining us. It's been like a really interesting experiment, getting, you know, meshing and smashing worlds together using Zoom, navigating all these different arts platforms for, you know, truthfully, you know, none of these platforms are really made for the arts. And so like, how do we take that technology and take that and use it for something that is beneficial? So we're really looking forward to the rest of the year and the rest of the summer and to seeing you all again. Halcyon, as like Janae said, we're working with the current fellows to put together some kind of digital culmination of what everyone is working on. It will most likely take the form of social media and rethinking how social media is used right now. And in addition, this month, Halcyon and by the People Festival, a Monochrome Collective has put together an art fair representing over 100 DMV artists. We'll have a lot of artist talks and really cool programming. So that will all kick off on June 12th. But you know, we'll probably see one another again on this online platform. So thank you. We're gonna leave things open for a little bit, just so you know people can turn off their mics and share and send more applause. Oh, not over the chat. But have amazing weekends, everyone, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, Janae.